Welcome back to Becoming Limitless. On this episode, what I would like to talk about is hydrogen and oxygen. You see me wearing the cannula here and some of the equipment that we have. So I really want to shed some light. I constantly get questions about how is oxygen good for me, hyperbaric chambers, HBOT. Is it a good idea for me to use a oxygen concentrator, for example? And then there's a whole thing around hydrogen too. So today's episode, I'd like to focus a little bit about these two gases and their importance from a biohacking perspective and for the average Joe looking to optimize their life and their fitness. Hi.
Hi.
How are you? You good?
I'm good.
Is this annoying you? No.
It's
okay.
It's new.
Yeah, it's new, obviously. Yeah, it gets a little bit used to, but you'll forget about it in a few minutes.
Okay, that's great. Amazing.
So I want to talk today a little bit about breathwork, breathing, oxygen, hydrogen, all of that. And I'd love to hear your questions about all of this. But let me start by saying that I cannot stress enough how important breathwork is for us. Mm-hmm. To break it down briefly, breathing is literally a gateway. It's a gateway for a flow state. If you've heard of that, of course you must have heard of that. So it's the place where it guides you to like a higher place, if you like. It's many people have called it is the gateway to God through breathwork. The ability to focus on your own breath work, it's, as I said earlier, it's a gateway for you to go into a flow space. There's a deeper energy, a creativity, if you like, or inspiration that flows through to that flow state. So in biohacking, obviously we love to harness some of that, especially something as abundant as oxygen and hydrogen, and especially in the modern world that we live in right now, and more especially, I should say, in our region, because of dust pollution, being indoors so much with ACs and so on, and we'll touch on that a little bit. So the first thing I'd like to discuss and kind of shed some light on is oxygen and the different modalities for it. So why is oxygen so important for the body? It is perhaps the single most important thing that mitochondria uses in order to produce energy, which is basically everything that you do in your body. So oxygen plays an important role also in your general health, obviously. It also produces the clarity in the mind. So the brain is the hungriest organ that we have in the body for oxygen. So when you experience brain fog or when you experience parts of the day where you feel you're less creative or not able to focus, it is generally because of deprivation of oxygen. So there are several ways of trying to understand your oxygen intake and several tools to use if you want to increase it.
Okay, I have a question. In our daily life, I don't hear a lot of people using oxygen tanks. So it is underrated in our world.
Yeah.
Why is that?
So most people feel that it is something that you would only find at a hospital, for example. You would only use it for someone whose lungs have collapsed or they're not able to breathe on their own, which is all true, by the way, obviously. But for us in the modern world, if you're biohacking your own health, you need to optimize oxygen in your body. Now, not just from a physical perspective, but also from a mental perspective. Meaning you could use it in your meditation. Through your breath work, you increase your oxygen, but at the same time, you are able to go into a flow state, as we said earlier, but also to help you meditate, reducing cortisol, getting more energy, and so on. So, and most people are simply not aware of all the different tools that are out there. In one time, the only way you could get oxygen was through tanks such as these.
I wanted to ask you about that. How do we increase our intake of oxygen?
Right. So the number one free, easiest is to actually do breath work. Breath work such as box breathing, for example, or the Wim Hof method. There's so many methods out there. My favorite is the box method, and we can go through this at the end to kind of show you what it means.
Okay.
So at one time, oxygen was only available in tanks like these. So you'd have to go to a supplier. They would have these massive concentrators that they create the oxygen, and then they would fill it for you. You can bring it back with you home, and you could use it for whenever you want to. We'll talk about the usage also. But now you could get oxygen concentrators like the one we're using right now. Mine is purely an oxygen concentrator. Yours is oxygen plus hydrogen at the same time, which is one of the latest crazes at the moment. So, and we'll talk why the combination is so cool a little later too. So you could get it through a concentrator, you could get it through a tank. You could even buy smaller tanks that you could use, especially athletes use it when they're training, especially for altitude training and things like that. So it's much easier, it's much more affordable to get concentrators like these. Now let's talk usage a little bit. Okay. And I don't know if you wondered about this here.
I was looking at it, yeah.
Yeah,
and I really don't know what it does.
So this is a soft shell hyperbaric chamber. So another way of doing some oxygen therapy. So hyperbaric chambers, you go inside, it is closed up, and then it's pressurized to a particular ATA, meaning that right now we are at sea level, so your atmospheric pressure, it's at 0. When you want to increase it, you need to add more atmosphere to the environment that you are in. When you go inside the chamber, we're able to add more atmosphere to it. That means more air, so the air is thicker. And at the same time, you put a mask on and you're breathing nearly 100% oxygen while you are in there.
Wow.
So with added atmosphere, plus 100% oxygen, it actually goes to every tissue in your body. So it accelerates healing. It helps with mitochondrial health, as we said. It is used for brain health. Again, this is nothing new. It's just more accessible right now because of the cost. And people know more about it. This is something you could buy, you could put in your house, you could use regularly. I have friends that have large enough ones that actually sleep in them overnight. So there are so many benefits to them. And again, as I said earlier, it's nothing new. Hospitals have used it for decades. People that go diving, they use similar chambers to acclimatize again to the regular atmosphere. And the benefits are in multitudes.
Question. So you mentioned that some people can actually sleep in something like this.
Well, this is meant to be used for wellness purposes.
Okay.
But there are chambers that are hard shell chambers.
Okay.
That could be like a small room where you're able to put a bed inside, basically.
Okay, but my question is, so there's not a certain time span we need to be, putting on some tools for oxygen intake?
Yes. So some people think that sleeping in it could be an extreme way of experiencing oxygen under pressure. The general rule for something like this is 60 to 90 minutes.
Okay.
And you could do it 2 to 3 times per week. The important thing is that you do not do it if you are traveling or if you are diving, 24 hours on either side.
Okay.
So it is important not to do that because of the change of atmospheric pressure. But the general therapy time is 60 to 90 minutes.
Okay, even those machines?
These you could use daily. So for me, I use them almost daily.
For how much time approximately?
You could put them on, so generally, you could put them 90 minutes, 60 minutes, 30 minutes. Any extra oxygen going into your body is helpful. So I use it, for example, when I'm working to help to reduce brain fog. So I have a walking treadmill on my desk. I'm standing up and I have this at the same time. And I sometimes use red light at the same time.
So every episode you add a tool to us of what you do when you're working, for example, at home. Nice.
So the stacking, because it's super important. Imagine if you have to do an hour and a half of this, 30 minutes of red light, and then this, you end up the whole day just going through. So stacking them is important for you to get as much benefit as possible, as long as they don't contradict each other.
So, and your body blocks when it doesn't need any more oxygen, right?
Well, sort of. It's not really blocking it.
It doesn't grasp it.
Absorb
anymore.
as
Absorb
much,
it,
yes.
Exactly.
So it's really dependent on your lungs. So an ideal situation where you would want your body to get more oxygen is when you're working out. There's actually a therapy that people can do. We also offer it. It's called HBOT, exercise with oxygen training. So, and then what happens during that, you'll be on the treadmill or on a bicycle, and you'll have something like this with added oxygen. So with that, because you're breathing more, your heart rate is more, you're able to absorb more oxygen into your tissue. But even in sedentary, while we're sitting like this and doing it, it contributes to adding more oxygen into your tissue, most importantly, your brain.
Okay.
So I use it, as I said, while I'm not moving, for brain fog, for energy, added energy, if you like, or preservation, energy preservation, that's what I wanted to say. So it helps in that sense. And it's really, it's fairly comfortable, you get used to it really quickly and all of that.
Okay.
So the different aspects of using oxygen, so you could use it through breathwork, you could use it through machines such as concentrators. You could go traditional and get a concentrated oxygen in cylinders like this one. You could use hyperbaric chambers. And all of these contributes not just to your general health, but also contributes to your brain health. And there have been so many studies that contribute to healthy aging too. So it's anyone who's pursuing healthy aging, or the term that I don't like to use too much, longevity, this would be a key tool to have in your toolkit to improve your cellular health.
Okay, now you mentioned that my machine includes hydrogen with it.
Yes.
Why is hydrogen trending in biohacking?
Oh, I love hydrogen, because hydrogen is the smallest molecule in anything that we know. And the beautiful thing about it, that it is an antioxidant.
Okay.
So, but you hear lots about antioxidants. You have different options of antioxidants across the board. What is so special about hydrogen being antioxidant is that hydrogen as an antioxidant only targets the free radicals that are not good for you. Most other antioxidants, they target all free radicals, the ones that are good for you and the ones that are not great for you. So this is selective, and it works well on that, but it also helps with your microbiome. So it's an easy sort of to use antioxidant that is perhaps the most powerful in anything that we know, especially because it's super selective on the free radicals. So, and then there are obviously two main ways of doing it, either through inhalation, like what you're doing right now, and there are special concentrators only for that, or you could do a combination, or oxygen and hydrogen, and you can also do it through drinking it. Now, why is yours special and why I wanted to put that for you? Because right now, you're getting energy for your cells, and you're getting antioxidants of free radicals. So you're getting both stacking of two therapies that work hand in hand to optimize your physiology. So stacking again.
I have another question. So how does hydrogen support exercise recovery and inflammation?
Yeah, so as an antioxidant, it actually manages the inflammation that is happening in your body. So you're able to have a more fluid recovery rather than a very sharp one with DOMS, pain in the muscles, etc. So because you want the inflammation, but you don't want it to be too much or too little. So when people, for example, do the ice bath directly after their workout, they're hindering their muscle growth because they're reducing their inflammation aggressively. So with something like this, by reducing the free radicals, you're keeping the inflammation that is good for you, but taking away the parts that are not great for you. So you could do it before exercise, or you could do it after exercise. I have my bottle with me the whole day. I drink it 2 or 3 times. We touched before on this, I believe, in one of the content that I did in the past. But you need about 4 parts per million, the bottle that would deliver that. And if you're drinking it, that is. Ideally, you want to be inhaling it, and it goes through the lungs. But drinking is also great because it goes through the stomach. So you want a bottle that does about 4 parts per million. That's the maximum amount that our body absorbs. And you want to do it 2 or 3 times a day. So I don't drink that water, hydrogen water, the whole day. And you get different options. Like, for example, you have this one. If you want to turn it on, so you press the button and it begins. And you see now the hydrogen is being created. And so this Stanley-looking hydrogen generator is just one of the latest things that you can get. It's just cool looking, etc. But they all kind of work the same thing, the same way. But they vary in price drastically. So why is that? The number one reason why they vary in price so much is marketing. Is the amount of marketing is spent on them to get them in front of you. The number two reason is the quality of the metal that is used inside in order to create the chemical reaction for the hydrogen to be created in the water. And beyond that, they're all kind of the same thing.
Okay, so I have a question for you, which is, what do you think is the best way for a hydrogen intake? Is it through the bottles or through inhaling?
So the most convenient way, and you know what I always say when it comes to wellness in general, well-being, is that it needs to fit into your lifestyle. It's not easy for you to always sit with this, and if you have something like this that has a combination of both and use it the same way that I do, for example, while you're working, great. But on the go, doesn't interfere, you're already drinking water, you could have something like this. And you could also use little pills that you could, effervescent pills that you could use in water. They're not absolutely my favorite. I like this more because the other changes the taste of the water.
I tried them both, to be honest. The pills tasted different.
Yes.
This tastes lighter.
Yes.
So water tastes different in this, how it feels light.
Yes, exactly.
It's easier to swallow since I'm a person who doesn't like to drink water.
I see, right, yeah. And I think this is why I got you one of these, so you can kind of begin to drink a little bit more. But if you stick with it for 2 or 3 days, you begin to see a major difference in your general well-being. It's something you can't put your finger on. It's just like a sense of well-being because of this. And obviously that's happening because the reduction of the terrible free radicals that are in your body, all of our bodies.
You touched on breathwork, right?
Yes.
So can you tell me more about that?
So my key thing is that, as I said earlier, it needs to fit into your lifestyle, right? And breathwork, you're doing it 20,000 times a day. We take 20,000 breaths a day. So you might as well use some of these with awareness of them in order not just to simply work on your cellular health, but also work on your brain health and go into that amazing flow space where all of the creativity, the higher power comes from, I believe. So breathwork is incredible. And it doesn't take as much time as most people think. But imagine if you could also tie it up with something like this, like doing breath work with concentrated oxygen at the same time. That means adding the oxygen. But let's say you don't have one, which is not important, right? You do something like box breathing, for example. So box breathing is, if you imagine a box in front of you and you imagine the sides, one of the sides you're taking a breath in and you're counting to 5. One of the sides you're holding that breath in as you go up and you count to 5. And the third one, you're exhaling for counting to 5, and then you hold your breath again for 5, and then you start the box again. So from this corner, I take a breath for 5, and then I hold it for 5, and then let go for 5, and I hold, and I do it again. So the moment you do this is actually done for special forces. There are so many studies about how quickly your heart rate drops and your cortisol and how more focused you become, no matter what the situation is. So doing something like that. But there are so many. Find one that works for you, that you could integrate into your lifestyle, that you could do in the car, that you could do on your desk, that you could do before sleeping, which is awesome because it helps you to go into deeper sleep. And especially in a place such as where we are right now in Dubai, in the UAE. So we're indoors a lot. Air is being recycled through air conditioners. Oxygen is a little bit less. We breathe about 21% oxygen from the normal air that we have. Imagine if that air is polluted. That means your body is starving for oxygen. So by focusing on your breath, you're able to increase the amount of oxygen in. By adding air purifiers in the house, because of pollution, you're also breathing things such as organic matter that is in the air, skin cells, dead skin cells, dust, etc. So they're all around us. So perhaps in this region it's even more important to focus on the quality air that we take in and improved oxygen amount more than perhaps most places. But every human being on Earth needs to understand and work with their oxygen a little bit better. It's an easy biohack to have, and it works on the fundamental aspect of who you are. So there are really no excuses not to try to boost your oxygen, and the rewards are almost immediate. So when you do a breath work, you feel immediately more awake, you're calmer, etc. And if you add some of these tools for convenience purposes, you augment that.
I have one last question.
Sure.
Okay. So what does the future hold from, oxygen gyms and hydrogen sleep tech, for example?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the value of these is so accessible that, I envision recovery rooms where you would have hydrogen like to every person that is going through whatever modality. If you're doing compression, you could do hydrogen or oxygen, which is something we offer at Restore, for example. I envision a future where this becomes a lot more accessible for people, for the concentrators to become smaller. And the way things are going with the environment, the air, etc., I think there will be more of a personal choice in the same way as you would wear a wearables to track what's happening within your body, is you would have something that you could take with you wherever you want, similar to the hydrogen, where you're able to increase your oxygen and hydrogen intake.
Every time I'm with you on an episode, you enlighten me more about how I'm supposed to get myself into a better lifestyle, if you want to say that. So for me, I always thought that I'm breathing. My body has enough of what it needs. But thank you so much for all the tools that you're presenting, because a lot of people like me do not know about all of this, do not know how essential it is in our daily life, because we're always busy with our work, especially in the region we live in. So thank you for all of this.
I mean, it's for all of us. We all don't know what we don't know. And it sometimes requires small conversations like these in order to kind of enlighten. So I'm a geek, I like the stuff, so I'm able to share that information without you having to do all sorts of research. So I appreciate you listening to me. And I hope this information everyone finds useful. And everyone, I think, knows where to reach me. So if anyone has any more questions, or even you let me know, okay?
Thank you so much.
Of course. So be it hydrogen, be it oxygen, be it a generator, be it a canister, be it hyperbaric chamber, HBOT, all of that. It doesn't matter. Just find your happy place. It could be something as simple as a breath work that you do regularly, something that you could stack on other things, even if it is as simple as stacking it with your sleep. Just before sleep, a little bit of breath work that works for you, and you'll see the difference. Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you next time.